Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, YouTube. We are again reading out of the Bible. I am using a translation called the Scriptures. If you would like to read along with this particular translation and you don't have one, there is a link in the description for an ebook version. But whether you follow along with this translation or read out of your own, please read it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. So grab your coffee, grab your Bible, and let's read. Today we are starting in Joshua chapter 4. And it came to be when the entire nation had completely passed over the Jordan that Yahweh spoke to Yehoshua, saying, "Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from every tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm. And you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the night." And Yehoshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, 1 man from every tribe. And Yehoshua said to them, "Pass over before the ark of Yahweh your Elohim into the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. So that this shall be a sign in your midst when your children ask in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones shall be for a remembrance to the children of Israel forever." And the children of Israel did so, as Yehoshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as Yahweh had spoken to Yehoshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and took them over with them to their camp, and laid them down there. Yehoshua also set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. And the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until every matter was finished that Yahweh had commanded Yehoshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moshe had commanded Yehoshua. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to be when all the people had completely passed over that the ark of Yahweh and the priests passed over in the presence of the people. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over in 5s before the children of Israel, as Moshe had spoken to them. About 40,000 armed ones of the army passed over before Yahweh for battle to the desert plains of Jericho. On that day Yahweh made Yehoshua great before the eyes of all Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Moshe all the days of his life. And Yahweh spoke to Yehoshua, saying, "Command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, and let them come up from the Jordan." And Yehoshua commanded the priests, saying, "Come up from the Jordan." And it came to be when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahweh had come from the midst of the Jordan, that the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and flowed over all its banks as before. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first new moon, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Yehoshua set up in Gilgal. And he said to the children of Israel, saying, When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahweh your Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had passed over, as Yahweh your Elohim did to the sea of reeds, which he dried up before us until we had passed over, so that all the peoples of the earth shall know the hand of Yahweh, that it is strong, so that you shall fear Yahweh your Elohim forever. If you notice, there's a lot of things done in remembrance of little miracles and smaller pieces of, like, there isn't just, just one thing to remember bringing them out of Mitzrayim. There's all these different things. There's a lot of memorial places and, festivals and stuff. It's that constant reminder to the people that didn't see it for themselves. And yet, it still won't be enough in the future. But for now, For now, everybody is following along and remembering and doing all the steps. Chapter 5. And it came to be when all the sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan westward, and all the sovereigns of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that Yahweh had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Israel until we had passed over, that their heart melted. And there was no spirit in them any longer because of the children of Israel. At that time Yahweh said to Yehoshua, make knives of flint for yourselves, and circumcise the sons of Israel again the second time. So Yehoshua made knives of flint for himself and circumcised the sons of Israel at the hill of foreskins. And this is why Yehoshua circumcised them. All the people who came out of Mitzrayim who were males, all the men of battle, had died in the wilderness on the way, after they had come out of Mitzrayim. For all the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people who were born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Mitzrayim had not been circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the nation, the men of battle who came out of Mitzrayim, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of Yahweh, to whom Yahweh swore not to show them the land which Yahweh had sworn to their fathers that he would give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Yehoshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. And it came to be, when they had completed circumcising all the nation, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. And Yahweh said to Yehoshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Mitzrayim from you. So the name of the place is called Gilgal to this day. And the children of Israel camped in Gilgal and performed the Pesach on the 14th day of the new moon at evening on the desert plains of Jericho. And they ate of the stored grains of the land on the morrow after the Pesach, unleavened bread and roasted grain on this same day. And the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain of the land. And the children of Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to be, when Yehoshua was by Jericho, that he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw a man standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Yehoshua went to him and said to him, are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, no, for I have now come as captain of the host of Yahweh. And Yehoshua fell on his face to the earth and did obeisance, and said to him, what is my master saying to his servant? And the captain of the host of Yahweh said to Yehoshua, take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is set apart. And Yehoshua did so. So the big thing in this chapter is getting all the men circumcised, because all the ones who had been circumcised when they left Egypt, they all died. And these are people that have been born while they were on this 40-year journey, and they couldn't exactly circumcise while doing that. So let's get all that done right now, and then they rested until they healed, because ow. But when you think of circumcision, the circumcision that we do today is not exactly the same. They would have actually cut off less skin than we do today, at least according to the research that I have found. But you would still want to take a couple days to heal, I'm sure. Chapter 6. And Jericho was shut up tight because of the presence of the sons of Israel, none going out and none coming in. And Yahweh said to Yehoshua, see, I have given Jericho and its sovereign mighty brave men into your hand, and you shall go around the city, all the men of battle going around the city once. Do this for 6 days. And let 7 priests bear 7 shaparot of the Yobalim before the ark, and on the 7th day go around the city 7 times, while the priests blow with the shaparot. And it shall be, when they make a long blast with the horn of Yobel, and when you hear the voice of the shofar, that all the people shout with a great sound, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him. And Yehoshua son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 shaparot of Yobalim before the ark of Yahweh. And he said to the people, pass over and go around the city, and let him who is armed pass over before the ark of Yahweh. And it came to be, when Yehoshua had spoken to the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 shopherot of the Obolim before Yahweh passed over and blew with the shopherot, and the ark of the covenant of Yahweh went after them. And the armed men went before the priests who blew the shopherot, and the rear guard came after the ark, going on and blowing with the shopherot. But Yehoshua had commanded the people, saying, Do not make a sound or cause your voice to be heard, nor let any word come out of your mouth until the day I say to you, Shout, then you shall shout. And the ark of Yahweh went around the city, going around once. And they came into the camp and stayed in the camp. And Yehoshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of Yahweh. And 7 priests bearing 7 shopherot of the Obolim before the ark of Yahweh were walking, going on, and they blew with the shopherot, and the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came after the ark of Yahweh, going on and blowing with the shopherot. And the 2nd day they went around the city once, and returned to the camp. Thus they did 6 days. And it came to be on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day, and went around the city 7 times in this way. Only on that day they went around the city 7 times. And it came to be at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the shopherot, and Yehoshua said to the people, Shout, for Yahweh has given you the city. And the city shall be put under the ban, it and all that is in it belonging to Yahweh. Only Rahab the whore is to live, she and all who are with her in her house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, guard yourselves from that which is under the ban, lest you come under the ban when you take of that which is under the ban. And make camp of Israel a curse, and shall trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are set apart to Yahweh. They go into the treasury of Yahweh. And the people shouted when the priests blew the shopherot, and it came to be, when the people heard the voice of the shofar, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. And the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. And they put under the ban all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. And to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Yehoshua said, Go into the house of the woman the whore, and from there bring out the woman, and all that she has, as you swore to her. And the young men, the spies, went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought out all her relatives, and set them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city, and all that was in it, with fire. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yahweh. However, Yehoshua kept alive Rahab the whore and her father's household, and all that she had. And she dwelt in the midst of Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Yehoshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Yehoshua warned them at that time, saying, Cursed is the man before Yahweh, who rises up and builds this city, Jericho. He lays its foundation with his firstborn, and with his youngest he sets up its gates. And Yahweh was with Yehoshua, and a report about him was in all the land. So this is the famous walls of Jericho. And God says, go around it once every day for 6 days, and then on day number 7, go around it 7 times, and then everybody shout. Seems silly, right? But they did it. They followed, and they did it, and the walls all fell down. Rahab was saved because she hid the messengers, and she stayed with Israel. They burned everything else. Well, they took out the gold, silver, bronze, iron. Everything else was destroyed completely. Well, that is the end of the reading for today. Thanks for coming along with me. I hope you join us again next Saturday. May the Father bless you. Shalom.